Hello, this is Trip. Today I'm going to teach you how to do grain spawn. We need to prepare our grain for mushroom cultivation. So, what we need to do is first research and pick what kind of grain you want to use. There's a lot of different types of grain, so I suggest you look into them, but I'm going to probably just go over the ones that are most popular that we see in mushroom grain spawn, and they are different sizes. So this is the one I use, millet grain. And there's the medium-sized grains are about rye berry grain, wheat grain, and oat grain. Those are all medium-sized grains. And then another very popular one is popcorn grain, which is your thickest and your densest of all the grains. So we're going to need to soak these grains overnight to get them into like a pre-germination state. So the first thing you want to do is get a big pot and measure out your grain. So I'm going to do 5 of these containers of grain. So there's 1, 2, 3, and we're going to add twice as much water as we do grain. 2. So this is 4 and 5. Okay, now I've already added 9 waters, and I'm going to add 1 more container of water to make this 10. So there's 10 of these containers of water. So double your water of whatever you measured out as grain. And we're going to allow this to soak overnight. So soak times are going to be different depending on the grain you use, but for your small grains, your millet and your Milo grains, about an 8-hour soak time is sufficient. For your medium grains, about 12 hours. And for your larger grains, your popcorn grain, I would do 18 hours or more. Because it's a very thick and dense grain, it needs to really soften up. And the reason we soak grain is so that it'll get into like a pre-germination state, and the heat from the pressure cooker will be easy to penetrate it. But we're going to let this soak overnight, and it should become really soft by the time it's done. Let's see, depending on the size of the grain determines how much time you soak. So, I usually do it overnight and then start my grain spawn in the morning. Start my blanching of this. But we're just going to cover this up and wait overnight, and we'll come back on this after it's softened. So yeah. Okay. So the next thing you want to do is after it's soaked the designated time, you want to bring your grain to a rolling boil. And so we've let this grain soak overnight, and now it's boiling. And then you're going to boil it, you're going to blanch the grain. So you don't want to really like full on cook this grain for 30 minutes or so. You want to just blanch it. So that's going to be barely cooking it. So for your small grains, about 3 minutes of that rolling boil. For your medium grains, about 5 minutes. And for your large popcorn grains, about 10 minutes. And you just let it boil for that long time. Then you turn off the burner, and you're going to let it sit and cool. And this is what you get. Usually is my grain. Here, I think I got it there. That's what it looks like. Most of the water has been soaked up from the grain in the boiling and cooling process. So, yeah. So then you want to get yourself a large screen, and you want to clean the screen really good with soap and water. And then I usually top it off by spraying some ISO on it and letting it dry, just to get it nice and clean. And then you're going to put your grain spawn on top of this. And we're gonna point a fan at it and let it cool down. Now usually you let your grain spawn cool all the way. I didn't this time, just in the essence of time. I'm trying to get this done so it's still a little warm. So it's gonna be evaporating still if it's warm when you put it out to dry. If there's any water in the pot when you're done blanching it and it's cooled off, you just want to strain that off. Strain off any excess water. And your grain is still going to be wet. So that's the reason why we're putting it on the screen. We're going to just spread it all over the place and we're going to dry it. So just lay your grain out there and then, let's put some more on here. Here we go. It's pretty hot still. Okay. And then you just want to kind of spread a thin layer out so it gets the most air exposure. And while it's cooling off, it's evaporating water off the grain right now. So, but, depending on your grain and how wet it is, will depend your drying times. I'd say about an hour drying time. So you take a fan and you point it on the grain and you let that run. 30 minutes to an hour, I would say, dries your grain pretty well enough to jar up. So that's what we're going to do here. We're just going to let the fan cool this off. And I know you spread the grain onto an elevated. You want to elevate the screen by about 3 to 4 inches with some. I use some cups here. I just turned some cups upside down and put the screen on top so there's air passing underneath the screen. But yeah. Okay. So while you're waiting for your grain, we're gonna do some jars and lids. You just want to take your jar or your bag, whatever kind of container you're using for your grain spawn, and you want to prepare it. So this one, we're just drilling 3 holes in the lid, and we're going to put the inoculation filters, which you can get these on Amazon. They're adhesive. They're not filters, they're inoculation ports is what they are. So you put one of those on, and then the other 2 holes, you can put 1 hole, but I usually put 2 holes for filter discs for the air exchange. So, that one didn't work. Let's put this one on. So there we go. 1, 2. So there. So just prepare your jars or your bags for getting ready to fill them up. So once your grain is dried, you want to check it by squeezing a handful. It should feel cold in your hand. So you still want the grain a little moist. You do not want to feel it crunchy and dry. So dry it till it when you squeeze a handful, it's cool to your hand, to your touch. And then you want to fill the jars and leave about a 2 to 3 inch headspace at the top. And that's for shaking, so account for the shaking. Because if you don't leave any headspace, you're not going to be able to shake it around on a shake and break. So we're just going to fill these jars with grain. Yeah. Okay. So once you get all your jars filled, put your lids on, and then we're going to take them over and we're going to put tinfoil on them. So you want to do this to protect your filter discs. Sometimes in the pressure cook they blow off a little bit and they get wet. So we want to kind of protect them from getting wet by putting on a piece of tinfoil tightly snug around the lid. And it helps prevent the moisture from getting in and blowouts on your filter disc. And when you take this off, you're probably going to have to push down a little bit on the filter disc just to seal them really good. Once you get ready to inoculate, you take this tinfoil off. But, yeah, so we're going to put this in our pressure cooker. And we're going to pressure cook this. The millet grain, I cook for about an hour. for Milo and or for rye berry grain and your medium-sized grain, about 60 an hour and a half, and for your large grains, about 120 minutes. So, once you've got them cool and they've cooked on 15 psi in the pressure cooker, you're going to want to inoculate. So once the jars are cool, you take off the tinfoil and turn on your laminar flow hood. There we go. Okay, that's loud. Okay, so you remove the tinfoil, and you can pat dry any moisture or residuals that moisture that got under the tinfoil. You can pat that with a paper towel and press your filter discs down. Make sure they're nice and secure. And I'm just going to wipe some water off there, some moisture. Okay, and then we're going to inoculate this jar. So I've got here some liquid culture I'm going to inoculate this jar with. So first thing you do is you're going to take your alcohol and clean your inoculation port really well. And set that in front of your laminar flow hood to allow that to dry. And then I got my liquid culture here. I'm going to sterilize the needle. Always sterilize your needle before you go into a jar or bag. I have a little sterilizer here, so I'm going to put it in there for about 5 or 6 seconds. Okay, that should be good. A little bit more. Okay, so you let your needle cool a little bit, and what we're going to do is we're going to shake it so it's an even top, and then you're going to put your needle into the inoculation port, and you're going to point it toward the glass, and you're going to tilt your jar, and as you push in the inoculant, you're going to turn the glass so you want it to hit the glass wall and fall down onto the sides, and that's the best place to inoculate. You don't want to inoculate in the middle of the jar because then you can't see how much colonization has gotten done, and you don't know when to break and shake. But yeah, that's about it. You just inoculate your jar. I highly recommend that you wait, and I highly recommend that you prepare your grain spawn so that it doesn't have to wait a long time in the jar before you inoculate. I usually do mine the day before, and you don't want to shake it afterwards. You just want to kind of roll it around, any liquid, let it get soaked up by the grain, and then that's all you do. So you usually with a liquid culture, these colonize pretty fast, and it takes maybe about 3 or 4 days before you can do the break and shake with a liquid culture if you've got a strong one. So that's all there is to grain spawn. If you have any questions, you can comment below. If you like the content, please like and subscribe to my page. And that's it for grain spawn. Please hit like and subscribe if you'd like to see more mushroom cultivation videos. Thank you very much. Check them out. Your mama is a spore.